you gonna
I
set it
hope you're.
straight? Are we starting? Are you ready?
Wait, are we actually ready for once?
What do you
For real?
mean? There's nothing to
Yes,
prep. This is it. We're going.
yes, I'm ready. Like usually you take like 50 minutes. What do you mean? Only 12 minutes. It was mostly me
Hello,
talking.
and welcome back. Yeah, you were talking for half of that. It's all things real time. We're back. The mic works, at least for now. I've just jinxed it. It's gonna break immediately.
How I wish they could see what was happening like 5 seconds ago. Hello and welcome to friends and fans of All Things Real Time. We are back. We had First off, let's like okay. Why the fuck did we
Why did
disappear?
we disappear? Yeah.
It's my fault. This microphone broke, or rather, this cable broke. So I had to like get sent in a new one. So for a week we couldn't record.
It was
We
like a
didn't
week
take
and a
up.
bit, yeah. We didn't mean to
Yeah.
take a break. We were forced to take a break. But this does beg the question: is this now season 2 of All Things Zero Time? Do we have to? Do we call it a new
No, I
season?
don't think so. No, I don't think so. How many episodes have we made official? 9?
I think
8?
8, 9. Yeah, I
I
should know
think
this
9
probably.
officially. Bro, I don't even know this either. So, I think we made 9. Let me double check. No, I think that's way too little. That's way too little. Yeah, it is 9. Yeah, it is 9. I think that's way too. I just realized that our videos are actually not doing bad. Most of them have a home 100. Like I was, damn. I mean, they're not
saying
good
thank you to the fans. You're saying thank you for supporting the podcast. That's what you mean to say,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, obviously. Shout out to Noah. How is the short doing? Is the short doing any good? No, the short is doing like shit.
As the podcast did, that podcast episode did. It was fine. I really wanted to get like 1 million views and we'd like blow up overnight thanks to YouTube Shorts, but it turns out that's not how the algorithm works yet. Which
Well, I think it was a bad show. I don't think it was. It was great. Great.
You're
It was like only made
short
shorter. Yeah, I think you cut it incorrectly. Also, I cannot see your cam, so double check that you can actually see.
I mean, oh wait, I didn't click the button yet. It's fine. It's because we're doing show and tell this week. There you go. You can see it now.
Okay. But they could see it.
Because I have some news for you.
Okay.
I have a new project that I think you're not going to approve of.
Oh god. Yeah, this is not scripted. I have no fucking clue what he's talking about.
I have found the new member of All Things Real Time. Because I bought a dog. No, that's not my dog. That's not my dog. That's not my dog. Hang on, wrong button.
That's a fucking ugly dog, mate.
There's my dog. It's very cute.
Wait, I already knew this.
This has dragged me away from strategy games. I've been touching grass like a pleb. But as you can see, he is a fan of a laser, so he's a good dog.
Yeah. He's a fan of Migo, very nice. Migo's, I'm gonna send this. Actually, I'm gonna screenshot this and send it to Migo straight up. Yeah, I mean, no, I didn't think that that's what we were going through. I have another announcement to make. So this is no. We have to say it at the start, so then we can start the episode proper, right? Like I checked everything. Art, we are in the clear. So
okay. This is the other show and tell.
Yeah. I have an announcement, guys. I am disclosing this to be fully transparent. The Zerospace team, Starland Studios, I actually remember their name, has how do I say? I wouldn't say employed because I'm not like full time or anything.
Give full context. Give full context. So it started last beta because you wrote, or alpha, I guess, because you wrote the Zerospace, the famous Zerospace manifesto, right?
Yeah, I wrote a big manifesto about Zerospace, about what I thought could be improved and stuff. The reasoning for me for writing that manifesto was because I had a somewhat personal relationship, in the sense that I knew them, I even met them with some of the developers, right? With the balance team and stuff. So I was. I also really like the game. As I said, I thought that a lot of problems. I saw a lot of potential.
And from last alpha, you would have been one of the people that played the most, like by quite a...
Yeah.
So it gives you some
I also
kind of right
competed
to
in the tournament, etc. But yeah, so like I wrote the manifesto. I got in contact with the developers who I already knew from meeting them in real life for StarCraft related reason. Then during this alpha, like I had the pleasure of talking more and more with these developers until I was offered to do consultations for them. So right now I have done one consultation at the moment of this. I have been paid. It's not some insane amount. I have not been bought out. But for full disclosure, I did do consultation work for Zerospace. So the consultation wasn't anything that you guys have never seen before. It was exactly like I talked about what I liked, what I didn't like, what I thought could be changed or improved. And this was specifically, this is important, after the tournament had happened. Obviously, since I competed in the tournament.
You didn't rig it?
I mean, the tournament was rigged, but not by me.
Okay.
Not by me. It was rigged against me, but I cannot see it again. Hart, you're doing some weird
shenanigans. It's fine.
No, I need to see it, otherwise, like it's
just a picture of my dog. I can do this.
No, what do you mean? See the thing that the viewers are seeing.
Okay.
I swear to God.
Okay.
Because you're alt-tabbing, isn't that the problem? You want to alt-tab.
No, that shouldn't break things anymore because we switched to doing the
proper thing.
Yeah. Doing the listeners at home are getting a behind the scenes view of me taking 40 minutes to set up all the things at a time.
Yeah. So this, for full disclosure, I've had a personal working relationship with the developers of Zerospace. That has not changed my opinion the slightest, but I understand, like, if you think differently about it, because I will think at least somewhat differently. Even subconsciously, it could influence me, just being more awfully, knowing that I am working partially on the project as a consultant will obviously gain me hope, because I can actually change things, right? So keep that in mind. Moving on. That's it.
No, I think it's fair enough.
I'm making it sound way bigger than it is.
Yeah. I mean, you said it's been one time. It's one time you've consulted so far.
Yeah.
But, I think it's a fair point. I think it maybe should have been something we'd made a bigger point of earlier. I mean, not that you've been getting paid earlier, but it's worth pointing out that we haven't paid for any keys for Stormgate or for Zerospace, so we didn't pay to get into the Kickstarter, so that we, in a way, have already been given access to the game.
I will say that neither of us got keys because of the podcast. We made the podcast because we got the keys.
Yes.
So, like, to be clear.
Famous, to be clear. No, I'm just saying.
Do you want to tell that
you
story?
See my head getting bigger in real time? I'm famous. No, I'm not gonna. I don't want to talk about that. But I do want to say,
you're ashamed.
I'm a bit. I do want to say, yeah. I mean, we're gonna try and always obviously do our best in terms of disclosure, because it does bias us, even I don't know, even indirectly, even subconsciously. I think there's many different ways that these sorts of things can bias people, and a big way is because we didn't pay for the key, we see things differently. So if you go out and you buy something for $1,000, you're going to be more happy with it than if you got it for free. If it was free, and you can kind of be quite critical of it, but if you spent a lot of money on it, you're already kind of invested in a different way. And I think that's
the second cost fallacy.
Yeah, I think that's still true, even if you'd paid for like alpha access for a game, for example, like a Kickstarter access. You obviously have a different level investment, and I think there are lots of people who kickstarted and have quite strong belief in how the game will go and turn out, versus you and I, who have got keys for free, and then we don't not have faith in the project, for example, but we don't maybe have as much faith as people who have money in the game. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is that the thing, this can be either a positive or a negative depending on the way you see it. I see it as a positive because it means that I can be at least generally speaking, as I said, there is bias now because of the fact that I've been employed as a consultant. I can be unbiased usually. The reasoning for that is because I do not have any skin in the game. I have a bit of skin in the game, in the sense that if the game does well, it's gonna improve our views, quote unquote, because we are I'm a good player, Hart is a good entertainer, we have a good podcast that's proven to be quite popular with, for example, the Stormgate crowd, right? Compared to the Zerospace crowd and so on. So in a sense, we do have skin in the game, because if these games do well, and I really do wish them to do well, it is good, with more market for what we do. But we have not invested any money. We don't have any action. What are the words? any stakes, like actual physical stakes in the game. We don't have shares, for example, of for Frost Giant. We are not employed by anything. But I will mention that I've got keys not only for Zerospace and Stormgate, but for almost every other new developing RTS that I ever asked for or even got in contact with. So including the David Kim one, for example. I can say this, Art. Because Rotterdam kept telling people, oh yeah, just ask Lorimbo for his opinions instead of bothering me while I was in chat. So it's known that I did playtest that one too, for example. I've gotten in the Gates of Immortals Gate of Pyre. Shout out to the good team there too, who actually wanted me to try out their game. So we have gotten keys and we have gotten access to games we would not have had otherwise after the podcast too. But we are gonna be trying to be as unbiased as possible. This is way too long already. Okay, let's cut to the chase. This was like this fucking honesty integrity thing doesn't suit me really well as an Italian.
Cringe.
You know?
Can't we just like take money and just like not tell anyone about it and just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just
well, there is a price. $1 million, boys. $1 million, you can have my ass, bro.
If the money's like, there, we don't care, right? That's the
I will say whatever you want me to. $1 million, mate. I will say whatever the fuck you want. Yeah, I will say that Clash of Clans is the greatest game ever made. I will say, no, wait, what's the other shit?
This podcast is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Stick around.
Raid,
we'll read for them later on.
Raid Shadow Legend. If you want to pay me $1 million, I will say that you're.
Oh no, the mic went again. Did it break? I think you knocked the switch. I think you muted the mic. You might be. Yeah, your mic is muted on it. Check the thing. There you go. You're back. Oh no, that's worse.
Okay, wait.
Okay. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. It's okay.
Bro, I'm not getting sponsored by. I know you're not getting sponsored by.
Yeah. Raid Shadow Legend, $1 million. I actually played Raid Shadow Legend.
No, really? No.
It's the worst game.
Worse than Honkai Star Rail or
No, Honkai Star Rail is a good game. Like unironically.
Okay.
So it's Genshin Impact. Nothing. I don't even play the game anymore. But like, for all of their purpose, like Genshin Impact and their the whole Ohio like meta universe, whatever, they're all good games. And you can play them. I played like 200 hours of Genshin
Impact.
Stop saying this.
We have to get paid to say these sorts of things. You have to value the of your
I think the game is good. I think the game is good. Like, there is a reason why it's so popular. Even like, there is a reason why, like, as a gacha, it was so popular. Because I think it was like more of a normal video game and less of a gacha, and so it was actually like good to play. They invested a lot into actually making the game fun, and then they made a shit boat of money. And honestly, good for them. The team, like, my only problem with them is that I think they're both owned by the CCP or something.
Are they not Tencent games? I don't want to slander anyone. But...
I don't know. But
of shit mobile games, I bought a dog. I've been walking like mad. Okay, I've been playing so much Pokemon Go. It fucking sucks, bro. I can talk for hours about how bad this game is. Like, the actual game is fine. Like, walking around catching Pokemon is fine. I'm okay with that. But there's like there's a mode for battling, a PvP mode, okay? It's the fucking worst. It sucks so much. I hate it so much.
I'm just saying, Hard. You do know that we have a common like you can talk with the developer, right?
I talk to him all the time. Do you know what he did? I complained to him. I said this game sucks. I complained. I said this Pokemon is overpowered. You need to nerf it. And he sent me an excerpt from Niantic, which says that the last quarter, so I guess like January to April, is their most successful quarter ever. Pokemon Go made more money at the start of this year than ever before. So they don't give a shit, okay? My opinion matters nothing to Niantic.
The whole point is that we have connection with Pokemon Go developers. That's what you have to take from this.
Yeah.
That's the take.
I'm so mad about it. And here's the thing, you know how they do like giveaway stuff on Twitch? Okay, go.
Wait, sorry to interrupt you. I have to flex here. Because I want to tell this story. I want to tell
go.
Okay, so at one point in my life, I'm not gonna make the same joke I made last time. okay, Art, that I told this story. I don't know if you knew which one. So at one point, for my whole life, I always thought about these crazy rich people, right? That are so powerful. Like I've always wondered about how, like, what the fuck is like. This is such an insane thing. Like these real estate big tycoons groups in America, and they just like they ask each other for favors that are completely fucking insane to the normal citizen. But they're like, oh yeah, no worries, I'll borrow you like 30, I'll loan you 30 millions. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Get it back to me sometime. Yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like a small loan of $1 million. Like, you know, like those big tycoons that just like whatever they want, they just ask for it. And because they're so powerful and connected, they get it. Okay, so earlier this year, I realized this the flex. Art has already listened to this story. He knows the comparison. I realized that I had become connected well enough. Like, okay, so I wanted to get into a game. I'm not gonna say which one. I need to get a key for a game that was not public. Okay, so I was like, fuck, I don't know how to get a key. And so a mutual friend of us told me, ask this famous Korean pro player that is your friend. Just ask him.
You shouldn't say his name because everyone will start asking him for keys for everything. Drive him mad.
So just told me, like, just ask your friends. I was like, there is no ways. Like, it's a famous pro gamer. Why the fuck would he ever entertain me? So ask him.
Then
in 10 minutes, like, oh yeah, sure. I will give you whatever keys you want. Like, for you, no problem, mate. And I got the key like 20 minutes later. And then I realized I'm the fucking tycoon. I'm the one with powerful connections. I made it.
Why didn't you ask him for more? You could have messaged him, can I have $1 million? Yeah, why not? Sure.
I made it. I'm well connected. I just need to get connected to the European pros now. And then we can truly pop off, right? Like soon you're gonna see the content, coached by Rain. I need, like, if I meet him,
so I need to like encouraged by Rain. You after your big brain vows. Come on now. Do you send them replays and say, hey Rain, can you help? Pro in Zumba.
Someone link Raynor to this moment. We should do that short. Coach me for an hour. It's gonna be the greatest content of your life. Even as an editor, I promise you, you're gonna get triple the views of a normal video.
Yeah, you definitely have that kind of pull, I think.
Yes,
somebody, talking about full disclosure and that sort of thing, somebody said, you're not getting paid by YouTube. And I was like, what the fuck do you think? How many views do you think we get? We don't get paid shit by YouTube. This is for fun.
Are we even monetized?
No.
We are not.
No. I haven't even looked into it.
I'm not saying like whether or not we have gained
paid by YouTube.
Any significant amount of money, because we are not. But I think we get, like, okay, I think the ratio is like 2,000 views. It's like $1 or €1. I think we have like maybe we can get like 2 or 3 euros out of this.
We could have if we'd monetized before we got the views. Now it's too late. We've got the views now. It's over.
Yeah, you have to look into it. Like, imagine, you have to do it. Imagine we pop off. There is like one thing that gets 1 million views, and then we just suddenly lost like on $1,000.
Okay.
We will feel so bad.
You're so right. You're so right. This next YouTube short, it's gonna get 10 million views. Will be
right. The YouTube short with Raynor. The YouTube short with me. Just do it. Trust me. Just do the Raynor.
I see what I can do. I'll try and sort the monetization, but we are not getting paid by YouTube. We're not that rich and famous yet. Okay.
We are not getting paid by...
You know how they do free giveaway stuff on Twitch with Twitch Prime, right? I have Twitch Prime because of Amazon Prime for the next day delivery thing. Okay. My mum has Twitch Prime. Okay. So I have Twitch Prime. Okay. What they've done is they gave away, but to get all of the in-game items, you have to win 100 in-game Pokemon Go battles, which is not that bad. but it repeats 7 times. I'm nearly finished. It's so close now. I've won 680 in-game Pokemon Go battles. I want to fucking kill myself. The game sucks. Do not play it. But I'm getting paid by Jeff Bezos in-game Pokemon Go currency to play a shit game. It sucks, bro. It's so bad. And then, and then they had a Twitch drops thing, so you had to like link your account and then watch half an hour of the World Championship of Pokemon Go. And all it is people tapping their phones as quick as they can, and I'm like, this is so embarrassing, bro. Do you know what I mean? It's like
competitive. We should get into Pokemon Go. No, fuck. If Nintendo wants to sponsor us, fuck, I'll become a Pokemon Go pro.
I'm not taking it. I would not take their money. I'd be like, I only take money in things I believe in, and this game blows, bro. I play 500 battles. I can't wait to be done all the time. And it's one of these games, and you'll know what I'm talking about because I know you've felt this too, where you win and you're like, I didn't outplay. I didn't deserve that. There wasn't like any kind of like interaction that I was like, wow, I did so well. I was just like, yeah, I just have better Pokemon. I win. Sorry, you know. Like I'm like decently high ranked in Pokemon Go now, and I hate it.
This is like when Boss was playing Vanguard. It was like he would like fucking win players, he would lose to us Infernal, he would win against us Vanguard and just say, bro, this is fucking dumb.
And then he would say, and then people would message him and say like, I don't know how to beat this. He's like, yeah.
I was like, neither do I. Okay.
Okay, this is a good segue into Stormgate. Stormgate will be opening at time of recording in 2 days.
Oh, wait, where are we supposed to do Zerospace first?
We'll do it second. It's fine.
Okay, sure. Well,
you just ruined the segue. It was a good segue, and now you've ruined it. Okay, never mind. We'll do Zerospace. Whatever.
Did you know that segue is spelled Segue, like the Italian word segue, and not Segway, as I previously told.
Like Segway, as in the things that you stand on. The weird bikes. Yes, I know how to spell Segway because I was the one that told you how to spell Segway.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like to the public, you know. This is a did you know?
This
like
PSA,
it's a public
to everyone that didn't know how to spell
PSA.
Segway. Now you know. The second segue, second PSA is don't play Pokemon Go. It sucks.
I feel like this episode is like 50% more fucking around.
But that's because it's the midpoint.
It's the in between.
Yeah.
It's the midpoint of this
day was coming, right? It's the midpoint between, you know, the downswing of Zerospace and the upswing of Stormgate, and we're nicely in the middle.
Okay.
So I missed nearly all of Stormgate because I've been really busy with work, and we made one video on it, and then I bought a dog, and he's not a big fan. So this is show and tell. So you've got to tell me everything. Just tell me everything.
About you said Stormgate, but I think you mean Zerospace.
I meant Zerospace the whole time. Did I say Stormgate?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I meant Zerospace. Go.
And if you didn't, then the viewers can like look back and see that I'm
Don't
just
clip that. Don't clip that. I don't care.
Gaslighting, Lorimba gaslighting. Okay, Zerospace.
Yeah.
So, a lot of improvement. I feel like I'm a fucking business client. No, okay, guys. The game, like, they fixed a lot of the shit that was problematic. As I said, like, my fucking mega document got to the developers. They took it seriously. A lot of the things, like the game being so gas centric, got. I wouldn't say completely fixed, because I think there are still problems with how gas centric certain matchups become. And by certain matchups, I mean all of them, or almost all of them. No, I mean, like, Grell versus Legion, for example, is not that bad, I think, for either of them. But like Grell versus Grell, for example, was very dominated by hair units. So Zerospace, they fixed a lot of things. I really like some of the direction that they went into. I like the way they moved their economy. I did not like it immediately. In fact, if you watch my only stream that I did on Zerospace, it was my first 6 hours of the new patch, and I fucking hated it. Because they changed so many things and the power structure really moved around. But after actually like getting used to it, I found that I had a lot more fun. This new version of the game gave me something that is very, very rare. Okay, I will say. It's actually very, very rare TS in general. And it was that on my average game, I would use almost every single unit that was in my arsenal. That's very rare. Like, think about StarCraft. Think how limited your comp usually is. So certain things that
Yeah, we
Zerospace
talked
did.
about this before. Yeah.
Yeah. So both Stormgate and Zerospace have this thing. I think Stormgate has it a bit less because of how certain games go, especially like they tend to stabilize in determinate comps. But with Zerospace, because of relative powers of certain units, my games were like they had this impressive thing where I was like, oh, I'm using like this tool and then this tool, and like most of my mercenaries, like I'm using the shades, I'm using the flying guys, I'm using the time warper, and that's it. Couldn't even tell you what the other two were.
There's a mind control thing. I don't know.
Oh, the mind control was useful sometimes actually. Like it had issues. There's one that's missing, which means I was completely useless. Because I only played a random or most of it. Yeah, can you even remember which one it was? Like, I mean, there
I
are a couple
the
of
mind control thing. I've done my part. I've contributed.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think. I genuinely cannot remember what the second guys were. Well, like producer Pat is gonna find out soon. What the fuck is an amplifier? Don't even remember. Wait, what amplifier? What does it do? What? Bro, I'm terrible with amplifies units.
Yeah.
Would you believe me if I told them no clue what she's talking
Can you
about?
screenshot and show us which one?
I must be getting. Bro, how the fuck do I not know?
You got dementia, right?
I played all
wait, I was going to ask you this: how many hours have you played total? And then, do you remember how many you played after the?
Yes,
last
I remember both. I remember both of things, so I can check right now.
Yeah, Steam check. Let's go.
I have to find the game first. I was already on it. So at the time, I have 306 hours of Zerospace. I almost have 400 of Stormgate by comparison, so somewhat comparison. And I played 200 hours in this last patch. So I played a bit over 100 hours, like 106 hours.
Yeah, sounds right.
Last patch.
But Stormgate has been out for more time, right?
I played 3 patches of Stormgate compared to 2 patches of Zerospace. So comparatively speaking, I actually played a lot more Zerospace, I think. Like, especially this patch. I think this patch.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So both this patch of the last patch of Stormgate and the last patch of Zerospace. The amplifiers are the mind control guys. Okay, so I'm not like okay, there is a new unit that I've never heard before. We're getting trolled.
You haven't heard of the
Horn mech. Okay, how did I forget about the horn mech, which actually was meta defining because of a bug at one point. So I actually used 4 of them because I even used the horn mech. They were actually useful. I don't know how I forgot. This was actual dementia moment. No, but jokes aside, as I was saying, certain things really improved the economy and the ability to use a lot of units. Most of the games were actually stabilizing at a very nice 10 to 15 minute mark. You will get to tier 3 almost every game. So this can be either a good or a bad thing. Kinda depends.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about this actually.
Yeah.
So it seems to be the trend, and it seems to be the trend in Stormgate and Zerospace, where, correct me if I'm wrong, Zerospace economy is designed around, let's say, 2.5, 3 bases, right?
Yeah.
And Stormgate, you start with units, which means cheese is going to be very difficult because scouting is so freely available. So,
I'm not so convinced about that actually. I don't. Well, obviously, it's gonna depend about.
Points, I guess. Yeah.
It's gonna depend about how they go about certain things. Like, for example, one problematic unit that in that regard is definitely the Doombringer. Like the potential of like relentless aggression that you can have with the Doombringer, right? Just constantly dropping, picking up, recharging your units, and the fact that you can fundamentally do this infinitely with very little counterplay from your opponent until like until a Hornet is out or
Exo bunkers,
or if you're playing Infernal versus Infernal until never. Never.
Maybe the dragon can help.
Yeah, once they drop, maybe Shadow Flyers. I mean, we figured out that Spriggans were actually pretty good.
Yeah, towards the end, definitely.
Towards the ends. and no one believed us. We won a tournament with it. Boss and I did, at least, and no one believed me. Yeah. You were there. 100% wear it. Isn't that right?
But I guess this is a more important point than is, I guess, defining cheese, and I guess I mean more specifically, really early aggro stuff. So, for example,
I would say the opposite, actually.
Okay, I'll finish, but in the second beta for Stormgate, I want to say, might be the third, proxy waxing was really common.
Is the second, call it the second beta from the release of Infernal?
Yeah.
Because beta, alpha, I'm not
sure what you're right. It was the patch when the charge system was first brought in, and racks would spawn with a charge, which meant when you proxied barracks, instantly you could make units very close to the opponent's base. And what we're seeing the trend towards, and this was done a lot in Inferno vs Inferno, but less in
that is problem. No, that is problem in the other matchup. Meat farm rush was.
Meat farm was a thing, but you could scout.
Oh wait,
it was just hard to hold that. It was like just impossible to hold it.
Are we even supposed to talk about this? Actually, isn't it technically under NDA? That content. Well,
we're not sure. We're just talking about it.
Yeah, I'm really sorry.
Pretty sure we're talking about it. It's fine.
Monk is if you're knocking at the door, it's Monk with a sawed-off shotgun.
with an NDA that we signed. Let's talk in abstract. In an unknown game, there was a problem with proxies. But
okay, I'll stop you right there.
And you're right. In the meat farm, rushing was a big deal, but that was mostly, I think, even when you'd scout it, it was just very strong. I think the direction seems to be. Here's my thesis, I guess. The direction seems to be moving towards like less really early aggro stuff. So let's talk like 12 pool, especially like 12 pool proxy hatch, 12 pool drone pool is like phasing down in the newer RTS.
Well,
cannon rush, for example, because there were turret rushes and that sort of thing, and they've taken active steps to get rid of that sort of thing. So I think basically, I don't know that I mind. I think it's interesting and important because it adds an extra dimension to the game. We never really see them at pro level, and I think in general it's one of these like more annoying things that people don't really like playing against on ladder. Like there's so many diamond players that get cannon rushed and they just rage and quit the game. So I think
the thing is, I don't think that's gonna be solved. I don't think that's gonna be solved. I think that problem is fundamentally unsolvable.
Yeah, I agree to some extent, but I think it depends on, in terms of personal satisfaction, the stage in the game when it hits. I think most people, because what you're saying is there will always be something that hits as quickly as you can that's going to be overpowered for the time that it hits at, right?
Mate, you're talking about the game with dogs and Infest.
Yeah, and I think Infest they've reworked, and I think dogs are really problematic, and we talked about before. Especially, I think dogs are really difficult to balance, even in the mirror. So yeah, I agree, and I think if proxying isn't a thing, then people will make their buildings in their own base and then rush. We saw it a lot, for example, with the Hornet rush, for example. And I think there would always be this rush to, like, the earliest units that are going to win you the game, if that makes sense. But I think the time at which that hits matters a lot to people, because I think people wouldn't mind if they get rushed at 7 minutes versus getting rushed at 3 minutes. I think people would rather at least have the feeling like they got to play the game as opposed to like just losing the game in 2 minutes flat. But
okay, hear me out.
Go.
I think you're saying like you're somewhat on the right track, but you made a terrible job at explaining it. You're like the friend I was talking about pre-podcast.
Producer Pad says, I don't think anyone complains about feudal rushes. I think Lorimbo complains about feudal rushes.
What do you mean? I feudal rush on
castle rushes.
Yeah, castle. It's the opposite. I complain about people taking up. I'm the one feudal rushing.
And I think, to be fair, Producer Pad has a fair point, which is that people complain about anything because people don't really like losing, to be fair.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, the thing is,
even in AoE, there was like a lot of tower rushing at the start of the game, right? especially with Mongols, I want to say there's like a lot
Well,
of Mongol rushes, and they've taken active steps to try and reduce that.
yeah. But like, so what I wanted to say is like, I feel like people, like because the thing that you said is not necessarily as good as you think it is. Because for example, I can point you to an example of where cheese was at 7 minutes and it still felt terrible. I was StarCraft Wings of Liberty or Wrath of the Swarm.
Yeah, there were roach maxes and queen walks people didn't like.
No, not that. But like I'm just saying, like Proxy Racks was a thing. Roach rushes were a thing, not maxes. I'm talking about cheese that it's a 7 minutes because the game is so slow.
But you could
So like
you could roach max, I think, at like 9 minutes in Wings of Liberty.
no. It was 11 minutes or 11 or 13.
Think...
You wanna bet on this?
No, I'm gonna Google it.
I know this because a 9 minute
12-minute was roach max, but
yeah, Stefano was like 12 minutes, but I think
you
it's
could get
possible
there before 10. Anyway,
but it doesn't matter. Like the thing that I was saying is that it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, specifically the timing. I think that's like it's a good indication, but it's not exactly the thing. What is really important, in my opinion, there are like a couple of factors that make cheese very frustrating. First off, when you cannot scout it, or it's difficult to understand what's going on. So an example of this will be in StarCraft. The cannon rushes and the proxy rushes straight up cannot be scouted.
You need to be more specific, because you're talking about like Zerg. I think Protosses know when they're getting proxy racks.
No.
Usually, no?
No.
Do they not
cannot know if it's a... No, because you go in and you see that there is no racks, but the racks could be in the natural, for example. It's a very common, actually, at the top level.
Yeah.
Which is technically proxy racks, but not the same proxy.
But you are kind of scouting. You know that something is happening, is what I'm saying.
No, you don't.
Well, it could be misinformation, like you're saying, I guess, but...
Yeah. There are people who like that. I have my problems with this, because I feel like in that position, and like Protoss can confirm this, you're basically forced to take a gamble, right? Well, and even then, like...
I think there's worse problems too, because they can still open... and just wall off really fast, and then you really don't know like what they're doing behind the wall off, because it could be like 2 factory cyclone, or it could be, I don't know. Yeah, for example,
in the Protoss versus Terra matchup was the #1 complaint thing. Exactly what Art just said. They wall off really quickly. It could be mine drops, it could be Hellions, it could be Cyclones, it could be fucking Marauder, 3 racks, it could be whatever, right? So like, there is that. That's one of the things, right? Like lack of accessibility in scouting purposes, scouting wise, can feel very frustrating, because like, it feels like if to scout, I have to like gain context clues. Now in this, some situation can be really cool.
So we're saying, let's say Cannon Rush is the most annoying cheese. The ghost. The voices, the voices, the voices. The voices, the voices, the voices.
Can you hear it?
No, we can't hear anything.
Okay, fucking Alexa just started going off. Like really loudly too.
But remember, you don't have an Alexa. The voices, the voices, the voices, the voices.
So true.
No, okay, let's say Cannon Rush is the most annoying. I think I want to say there's 3 things, but you might have a longer list. But so the first one is Cannon Rush hits before you normally scout, which means, well, you know, point 1 being lack of scouting. Cannon Rush already ticks that box. Continue. You still
I'm waiting.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah, you had another point.
No, I was saying, so like the first point is scouting matters, right?
Yes.
Like whether or not you can scout, like regardless of the timing, feels like a lot of part of whether or not... I'm not even talking, like, I'm talking about cheese in the actual sense of the word. Like, not only I'm rushing you at 3 minutes, but also stuff like I'm 2 base carrying too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is technically not cheese, like real build, but when I say like unconventional strategies, so tech rushes, even for example, greeding out, the so-called macros. Like I'm talking about cheese in a more general sense. So a lot of this, like, you have to walk a fine line, right? Because in one of the problems that you can have, and that was one of the problems that, for example, the Stormgate developers had, which I actually appreciated, the fact that they were forthcoming about this, was, well, if you give scouting units to Infernal, for example, we start with a Shadow Fiend, that's not particularly problematic in the early game, because essentially the unit scouts everything just like the dog does. But it is significantly more problematic moving on in the mid game, because it gives infinite information that it's very hard to deny. And
even specifically because it's a flying unit.
Specifically because it's flying, right? So like that will be a challenge. So the second thing that really annoys people with cheese is the perception that it's very easy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's or that there is very little counterplay. Those things are very often.
That was going to be my second point. Yeah, is that I call it like lack of interaction, I guess. Where it's like,
no, I think that's a separate.
Like you're not. I mean, I guess we're just defining things differently. It feels like there's not much you can do about something. It feels really unfair.
Well, what I won't say that the problem is necessarily lack of interaction, because like for example, when I think about StarCraft, I think about like stuff like two base carrier. There is a lot that you can do, but it feels like it's forced interaction. I think that's the bigger problem, not lack of, but forced interaction. What I mean by that is it always feels really, really bad when you're like, well, I have this hand. Might not be the most optimal hand, but it's a hand that I have. Like I made some roaches, I made some links, I made some things, right? And a lot of the problems like that, specifically of air units, for example, is that ideally what you want to happen is you have a bad end, like you have the incorrect response, which deals with the problem badly, but still somewhat deals with it.
Yeah.
Or that's something.
So like it'll be inefficient. Like I've got Lings against Blue Flame Hellions. It's gonna be inefficient, but it's not gonna it's not like I'm dead. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not like I die on the spot. Like the enemy has Blue Flame, I don't have a Roach Warren, I'm instantly dead. No, because you have Queens, you have Links, you have Surrounds.
Even
like the game is more complex.
Spots, right?
Yeah, even Banelings, exactly. Like so, there is a bit more. Or when like later on with Blue Flame, Surrounds are really powerful, right? Like and stuff like that. But for stuff like Cannon Rush, I don't get to decide anything. It doesn't matter what I'm doing or what I want to do. I have to do one correct response from the start, or I have to blind counter. There might even be like slightly more variation, but I mean, like, there's like a couple of different responses. But one thing that's really annoying is the forcing element of it. That's what I mean by forced interaction. Like, you feel like, oh, I have to interact with this thing, even I might not want to. Like I don't choose not to. Like you cannot ignore a Cannon Rush. You cannot even slightly ignore or like postpone. It takes top priority. You have to interact with it. You have to interact with it in a specific way.
Like if you're playing against a feudal Russian Age of Empires and they're like got archers that are denying your gold mining, you could play around that and adapt your strategy and be like, it's fine, I'm using gold, but I can do something else on a different area of my base. And whereas if it's like there are cannons in my main, you're not like, it's fine, I'll mine the other gas. It's like, no, you have to do something about that.
One interesting thing that I wanted to say about it is that this is one of the things that both Zerospace and the Age of Empires do that, in my opinion, severely deviates the frustration of this kind of strategy. Like, there's one approach, and the one approach is to make your headquarters or bases in general, in the case of Zerospace, more easily be defendable.
Yep.
Right? So Zerospace does this with everything is a planetary, or can be a planetary. And not only that, but it also gets invincibility for a while you transform it. So it buys you time to go back with your army, for example. The headquarters is a planetary by default, which is actually a weakness, because it means that you don't get the invincibility. Now that's a bit problematic, in my opinion, which is gonna be fixed. But the general idea is cheese doesn't work very well, it's not as frustrating, which can work. Like cheese did have a place in Zerospace. That's like two base or one base proxies. But it was way more like, okay, I have to scout, I have to fuck up. I also like, and also felt like in general the cheese player had more options to go, like to deviate from the standard very often, and the non-cheesy, the defending player had various options to defend the cheese. So there was a lot of like, we've seen B do some interesting stuff with proxy bases, proxy cannons and stuff, and now some things are always gonna be. Stormgate goes about it in a slightly different approach. The ideal result is the same, the result that they are trying to get, but the approach is slightly different in the sense that they try to nerf the problematic strategies themselves but they don't have a placeholder thing that defends, right? Like you don't have the towers are very slow.
You can't load bobs and they start attacking. I guess there's overcharge, but
yeah, you have overcharge, but we already talked about that's actually a crutch because like it makes actual fighting.
It is different. Yeah. It makes actual battles throughout the game different.
Yeah, like the reason why Zerospace thing works so well is because it scales off in a very interesting way. Like it scales down quite nicely. Like at the start, you can defend the 2-3 bases.
Yeah, but as the game goes on, it's like less impactful and less. It's less meaningful. I think Stormgate. I think there's another point here, which is about balancing the cost. So for defending your base in Zerospace, it costs you, correct me if I'm wrong, 200 or 250 to defend that base. 200. Okay, that's right. Bob overcharge is a different one because it costs you energy, but normally you won't lose any workers. You lose a little bit of mining time, but generally it's not that impactful.
And you also don't have a lot of good ways of spending that energy either. Especially now we're talking about the overcharge also being the building time, right? So if you have any remaining overcharge, you just use it to do it. Like how problematic how problematic that can be. We have seen that.
Yeah. So that one is it's interesting that it's a careful act there of like balancing the cost of defending, because the alternative here is that people go 4 bases before doing anything and then just defend with the the crutch button, and then you can never punish someone being too greedy because the cost of defending is not high enough.
I don't think that's necessarily the case, because like this is another.
It can be the case if the weighting is poor. Is what I'm saying.
No. I'm saying I can see that happening. But I'm saying with Stormgate and Zerospace, they have introduced new tools compared to StarCraft to prevent this, and those tools are the map control reward system.
Yeah, definitely. Right? Yeah.
So for Zerospace, you have the towers and the rich gas. The rich gas are very important. And for Stormgate, you have like the creeps, and now they want to transform from what I've read, like their creep rework. From my understanding, the new creep camps are gonna work more similarly to Zerospace towers, so as points that you can control and contest, and how like you get the value over time compared to just killing the creep camp.
So
and
you don't just get like $200 up front. It's like you might get $50 up front and then $1 a minute until it's But then
maybe you get even more than before, but and then you might get even more than before, but then you have actually reason to contest the map and stuff. And so these are like, in general, I think this is a good direction. I liked it a lot in Zerospace, as I said. I thought it was an interesting idea. So I'm assuming it's gonna one of the creeps, the camps were definitely a bit problematic for Stormgate, so I think this change is good. We are gonna see how it actually concretely affects the game. I cannot say, oh wow, it's gonna be amazing. Maybe it's like super annoying. The first time we play with it is gonna be super bad.
It's gonna take a little bit of a learning curve to figure out. Okay, to go back, we talked a bit about cheese, and I think I maybe didn't mean cheese. I maybe meant very early rushes. And I think there's some there seems to be, from my perspective, like a bit of a concerted push to at least delay rushes until later in the game. From my experience of Zerospace early game and from Stormgate early game, especially since the Stormgate 3 unit just got announced. I think we'll talk about that later. Let's stick on Zerospace for now.
Yeah. So I was saying, I think the game generally moved into a better direction. Now, one thing I will say is that, at least for me, Zerospace managed to make the unthinkable, at least partially, which was to create dynamics that were interesting enough to lose to, that I would not want to rage out, but like, not every matchup. Grell versus Protector was unbearable, one of the worst things I've ever played, for example, straight up unfair too. But, for example, Grell versus Legion, well, it was heavily Grell flavor for sure. That's because we were playing Grell. Legion players wanted to quit. Legion players had a build for the whole alpha that was almost unbeatable as Grell. I just want one cheese build. When it was one cheese build, I was like, you guys were not figuring out.
100% win rate.
Like the thing that I've said is that with Zerospace, I will call people out here. With Zerospace more than ever before, and with the exception of Reaper and B, obviously, like we have not seen many traditionally like already well-known players from before pick up the Legion race. And what I mean by this is that it's, in my opinion, a perfect example of how much do you want to balance around this dude. Like how much do you want to balance around the base result if you already know by default that the distribution of the player is weird.
So
I'm not gonna name any
about patching around Serral.
Yeah.
When there might be one Serral and then 50 diamond players playing the race, and it's like, do we want to make it so that the 50 diamond players are competitive at the top level, or do we want to balance around, the one player who's good at the top level? I guess. There's only basically diamond players in this case. So like, do we need to make it good enough that everyone starts winning with it, or because then it will just become overpowered? I guess.
I definitely think that Legion was underpowered. I'm not gonna deny that. The problem that I had is that, as always, very often in this case, I cannot shake the feeling people cannot be possibly honest about their position. And I was honest, and this hurt me, as I said, because I was before the tournament started, a tournament in which I was participating, planning to play exclusively Grell. I spoke to the developers and I told them I thought that Grell was too strong. And I got them nerfed. Twice, in fact. I got the Reaper nerfed, was my doing. I specifically said the Reaper needs at least one armor to be reduced. And then the second nerf, it was not my... I did not suggest any changes. I just said Grell, I think Grell is a bit overtuned right now and needs nerfing. I noticed that people do not strive to achieve a good balance it. They just wanted their faction to be good.
Yeah. I'm going to be charitable here and say that I don't think people wanted to. They weren't saying I want this to be imbalanced. I think they are saying this will be balanced when I start winning, which is subtly different. They're not out there being like, this is good, but it needs to be better. I want it to be overpowered. They're saying, I believe it to be underpowered. I might be being too charitable, and these people might be deluded and mental, but it's
the thing that, in my opinion, is an ego problem, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, for example, for me, the balance check, the ego check for Grell is, can I win consistently against other top Grell players? Nothing else matters, because I know I'm not as good of a player. But if I can win in Grell versus Grell against Laser, then me winning against Lucifron, for example, does not indicate imbalance, because I can compete with someone who's as good as Lucifron in other games. So, like, the argument, well, Lorimbo is also a nobody, and he can win against Lucifron. Therefore, Grell is top StarCraft player, like Lucifron. You need to keep that in mind. Like, I have to be aware of myself. I cannot pretend that I'm as good at video games as someone like Laser or Lucifron, because that's just not true. So I have to always account when I judge my...
You should have more belief in yourself.
Well, but regardless, the point will be, you have to account, you have to get an ego check. Like, am I losing because of imbalance, or am I losing because I'm bad? And the only way I can judge to be how good I am at Zerospace, for example, is by, well, if I can beat Vortex, I can beat Laser consistently. If I compete with them for the position of best
saying these players is because they're other great Grell players, right? So you're saying that, like, when all things are equal, when balance is fair across the board,
Grell versus Grell is by default. Grell versus Grell is by default balance, right? Like, that's kind of the thing. We were not abusing any game-breaking bugs or anything weird like that. It was all of my wins against them were traditional games.
You might not have been. Vortex, not so sure. We saw in the Stormgate tournament, maybe.
Stop bringing. No, but in the Zero, poor word, like, bro, why you are killing my chances with this? I like the Spanish duo. Why are you dissing them? What the hell? You could argue though that different matchups play differently. Absolutely, of course, I could be just a god at Grell versus Grell. I have no way of ever accounting for every possible factor. What I'm saying is that there is an important thing that you should do as a balance tester, especially when you're at top level, which is you need to account for you. Like, you need to like have a reality check with yourself, honestly, mate. Like, you need to like think about, okay, is this unfair or am I bad? Okay, and of course you can always like these are almost self-defeating questions, because the question will be always like, oh yeah, like you can always get better. No matter, even Serral can get better, right? But that's not really the point of the question. The point of the question is this interaction going in a specific way always and then an equal skill matchup, or is that I'm like playing bad, I'm doing some kind of reasonably fixable mistake, and that affects how the matchup plays out for me. An example of this will be, I've had a discussion, and I will never leave that down. I'm not gonna name any names, but they know who they are, about Inquisitress versus Snowman fights. Snowman being the tech hero. Now, this was in the context that tech hero was absolutely busted. Like, there was no doubt about it. I wasn't the first one to say that tech hero needed
Wasn't
to be nerfed.
Inquisitress really strong too? Was this
Yeah,
post Inquisitress nerfs?
No, Inquisitress was never nerfed. Inquisitress was actually buffed. So the point was, did Inquisitress win 1v1s against tech heroes? My opinion, from every game that I've played against the top Legion player, whether it's Fun, when it's Reaper, when it's B, is that Inquisitress, even before the tech hero nerf, shits on tech hero. Tech hero can always escape before the nerfs. In the first 1v1, I mean, yeah, of course. But it's like, it's not close. Like, you should never lose Inquisitor. Like, that should, unless you like, you need to misplay quite hard for you to lose Inquisitors. Like, that exchange is definitely Inquisitor's favorite. That doesn't matter for the balance of the matchup, because tech hero is way stronger than any other aspect. Like, the utility scales off way better. Like, after that 1v1, tech hero is incredibly overpowered. So that's not what I'm discussing, whether or not Inquisitor was better as a hero. We are purely discussing about that. And I had a discussion, and someone was trying to tell me that even after the tech hero nerf, tech hero still wins 1v1 with Inquisitress. So not only was tech hero winning 1v1 before the nerfs at his strongest thing, but even after. This, in my opinion, is complete falsehood. Like, and like at that point, it's impossible to talk about balance, because we fundamentally, like, I told him, mate, like, no disrespect, but I think you're just like skill issue, honestly. Because like I've seen that interaction, right, between, I've seen it played by myself, I've seen it played by Boss, or by my Miko, or by Vortex, and never ever like I've ever seen two equally skilled or close to equally skilled players go in that way. The only times that I've seen is like, oh yeah, I'm playing someone who's a bit worse than me, they misplay, and then I can get a kill on the Inquisitress pre-patch, and then even if they misplay, post-patch is actually impossible to do anything. Which is how it's supposed to be, because Inquisitress is supposed to be really strong 1v1. But the moment there is that distortion of reality, right? Like, if we cannot even agree on how the interaction goes, like, how are we supposed to talk about balance? And that's one of the problems that...
There's a saying for this, which is, if it smells like dog shit everywhere you go, then check your own shoes. It's like, if every time you have this interaction, you're losing it, maybe it's not the hero, maybe it's a different common denominator in this.
I mean, no, it could also be that the interaction is unbalanced. Like, that's why that's what I said. Like, I wish for a lot of things, like another thing that was that annoyed me was, once again, I'm not gonna name any names. I think there was one protectorate, several actually, but one protector unit, the Disruptor, was problematic. The problem being it had no counter. There was no unit from Grell or from Legion that traded well into it. To go mass Disruptor, they would counter everything. Now, they're not the same as Disruptors in StarCraft. They were basically similar to Diamond bucks, if you have ever played the campaign.
So I guess more similar to Cyclones, maybe.
So a top player, which once again, people who know, I've gotten into disputes with a top player about this, right? Like I've asked him because he was winning against me every time by going Mass Disruptor. I said like I've tried every possible comp. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I've tried every possible comp. I cannot figure out what is supposed to, like in theory at least, regardless of skill. Like what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And like he told me something like, "Oh well, I cannot tell you for competitive reason or something." But I'm gonna call that bullshit. I think, and like the results of the tournament proved me right, that there was no counter. But people pretended that that was not the case. People pretended that the disruptor had counters. They just couldn't provide one when asked, or couldn't even provide a strategy that was supposed to deal with the problem, right?
Beyond that, it's a bit dumb because it's an alpha for a game that isn't out yet. I think.
There were quite a lot of money involved, so I can understand.
That, yeah, for sure. But at the same time, it's like I don't know. You could make a lot more money if the game is really successful and people like playing it and watching it. Versus like if you kill it because it's Ember at a really early stage, you're shooting yourself in the foot there a little bit.
It depends how much you want to invest, I guess. Like if you want to just
how scrupulous you are.
Yeah, exactly. So my problem is, regardless of whether or not this player really thought that was the case, which I genuinely cannot know. I cannot know. I cannot read the minds of other players. I've talked about this before. Is that I'm really worried about Zerospace because it feels and Stormgate too actually, because it's the same problem. It feels like once again people are moving into that us versus them direction, and it's like when the moment the base fabric of reality gets disputed, like we are not even talking about the same game. Like when I talk about Grell versus Legion, and when other players talk about Legion versus Grell, it looks like we're talking about completely different games. And there's always gonna be that to a point, but the moment it's like that pronounced, you get stuff like the patch before the tournament, which in my opinion was a disgrace. I'm sorry, guys. First off,
okay, I have a question about that. Yeah. I'm going to ask you, but yeah, I think we should talk about the tournament. I wanted to ask you a little bit about maybe philosophy, especially design philosophy.
Yeah.
Frost Giant with with Stormgate. Oh my god. Frost Giant with Stormgate took a very hands-off and very careful and slow approach to patching, where it would be like really infrequent that a patch would come through, even when things were obviously giga busted.
Yeah.
I don't have timings to mind, but for example, the Hornet at the start of the last patch was like the last release was crazy, and it still took like a long time to get that reduced, and then they nerfed it again. So we're talking like weeks, I think, by that time. Whereas Starlance were quite quick in terms of patches and quite often.
Well, they slowed down this patch. They slowed down this. So I can tell you about what happened. One of the things that I complained about is that on a spectrum from we're never patching the game, deal with it, aka Stormgate. No, Stormgate.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I'm talking about, we're patching the game once a month, maybe. And like we just let the meta develop in a alpha, whatever the fuck that means. We're gonna patch the game every game, and the meta never settles. Like every game is a new bullshit, aka Zerospace, especially in the previous patch. I would have liked a bit of a compromise, right? So they were. I think this patch was more successful. Like this time, this was better. They did like basically a patch every week and a half, 2 weekish. And then they did hot fixes for stuff that was like obviously broken. And the hot fixes
were bugged or
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Like stuff that was like
Rhinos were bugged for a bit, and those got nerfed quite quick.
No, they were just overpowered. They weren't bugged. They just were overpowered. But it wasn't even that they were necessarily overpowered, most likely. They were like very, very frustrating to play against and were incredibly punishing. Like you would do one misstep and lose the game on the spot. I think at top 10 level, they were not OP, Lily. Maybe they, because you could play very, very safe against them and just play 2 base and or Legion versus Legion, yeah. Sure,
yeah.
I'm talking about.
I think Legion was just Rhino versus Rhino every game. It's devolved.
Yeah. So they were really good at killing heroes. So Legion obviously being the hero-based one, right? So I like their approach, but the thing with that was this backfired because at one point they had a patch prepared, but then tech reasons happened, which can happen. That's not a problem. The patch got delayed more and more until it got delayed to the day before the tournament. And I think the patch itself was bad too. That's the other problem.
Yeah.
Because it did not address the crux of many problems. And I had a lot of the feeling this was a wine patch. So like we don't actually have the things that
these
are
were the things that people were complaining about a lot.
Yes.
So here are some changes to shut you up. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think those those went in the wrong direction because, for example, stuff like the buffs to Legion didn't change the matchup in any meaningful ways. They did not solve the problem that they want to solve. They actually increased it. Because if before the problem was that you couldn't deal with 5 rivers, you still cannot deal with 5 rivers. But now I have to go 5 rivers and I have to camp until 5 rivers because I can never ever win a fight before that. Like, yeah, there were 8 plus changes affecting one interaction, the river, because it was so complaining about. I wouldn't necessarily mind this patch in another context, but to do this one day before the tournament was crazy, in my opinion. Now, they did do one good thing, which was to change Legion more than changing the river itself. So this wouldn't affect the other matchup as much.
Yeah.
The other thing that I really disliked is that, like, as I said, it felt like Grell got nerfed justly, but Protectorate completely dodged the nerf for some very, very problematic units because people were not playing as much and they were not being as loud, as problematic. It could be because Protectorate is felt as a harder race to play, which is fair once again, compared to stuff like Grell being easier or Legion being easier, right? But once again, it felt like a lot of the things were completely ignoring the actual state of the game. And then I got to balance one when in the tournament we had like six Protectorate or something like that in the top 8, and like every one of us, like I got knocked out by Mixu, who's a dear friend of mine, an incredible gamer. But Mixu, like, come on, mate, he played 4 days, practiced one strategy, and just I couldn't do anything against it. And there were like several problems with it. So like it's
and I think Mixu hadn't played that much either. I think Mixu was
yeah, but I can name him because he's a friend of mine.
Yeah, but I think he was not. I think he would not disagree with you either. Like
the reason why I can name him is because he's a personal friend. I know he's not gonna misinterpret this as me saying Mixu is a bad player and shouldn't have won, because I think he played really well and some of his ideas were really, really smart. I wish I could have had more time to prepare for the patch and like to do stuff like
and
that.
If you'd been laddering for a couple of days on that patch, you might have seen more before and been more aware.
It felt like so much of my work was wasted because like no matter what, we were playing like a patch made up at the last minutes, or at least that we were made aware of at the last minutes. An interesting thing which I think could have made is was doing a pre-patch. If you're having technical issue, let's at least discuss what's in the patch before then.
Yeah, you mean like just drop the patch notes so that people can start thinking of theory crafting?
Yeah, at least that. So like if I'm like, well, or like people can say, look, mate, this doesn't do what you think it does. Like, give me a.
This is going to be more problematic than you think it will be.
Yeah, give me a chance to argue for the patch at least. Because, but like I can see the concern, but this was like, in my opinion, a really bad move. I think either you should have done, like I said, a pre-patch, or you should have delayed the patch after.
Yeah,
we wanted Legion to win more, to have representation. You didn't, like, that's not the way. As I said, first of all, I don't think that problem can ever change, because let me think, how many. No, I don't want to go into this again, into which Legion players I think are deserving of winning anything. Right? Because I don't want to go into the personal sphere again. But like,
no, that's fair.
Is the game actually balanced if all 3 races gets represented equally at the top 8? Do you genuinely think so? Like, do you genuinely think in such a environment in which you have like maybe 20, 30 top players, maybe, I would probably consider players that are good to be maybe 15-ish.
It's.
Do you generally think that's representative of balance, the top 8?
It's rough as well with because like Reaper, who's always been playing Legion as far as I'm aware, right? Even in the previous alpha.
Yeah.
And he was still doing well, even on a race that at that time was even more weak than it is now, right?
No. Like the pre-patch Legion was definitely underpowered. Reaper actually got higher MMR with both Protectorate and Grell.
Okay.
Because Legion was underpowered, like, there's no doubt about it.
This still makes my same point, which is that like, if you put people who are really good in any situation, they're going to continue to be really good. So they're like a really nice benchmark, a nice like water level that you're like, okay, that's someone that's, you know, good to balance around and good to listen to, versus like, yeah, buffing things until you end up with, you know, if you've got top 8, you need 2.5 like legions in there, so you just buff the race until there are 2.5 in there is like not maybe the best way to go about it in this spot when it's such a small alpha.
Yeah, that's my point too, right? Especially because like you're expected to change the thing, but if we actually look at what matchup was problematic then in the actual tournament, it was just Protectorate dominating everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because I called out that certain things were about Protectorate late game specifically were really problematic, but because the dominating theory was Grell OP, Grell OP, Grell OP, which is not even necessarily wrong. But the fact that like I often feel like with Zerospace patches, I've said this before, well, I'm gonna lose my job after this, but like, is that sometimes I feel like there is a bit of like blindness to the future. As in, well, what actually happens if we do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the end result of my, like, I sometimes like, oh, we have a problem, I'm gonna throw like what I think is an obvious fix to it. But then we don't take that extra step of thinking, well, what does the game look like if you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And that can
I
be
think,
problematic in the sense, like for example, if we nerf the river because Legion versus Grell is too imba, sure. What happens in Legion versus in Legion versus Protector? Is it still imba? Was Legion weak? What happens in Grell versus Protectorate?
I think this is not
Like,
a problem with Starlance and Frost Giant. I think this is across the board in that people read changes, and these games are so complex with so many moving parts that it's actually quite hard for people to like piece together and conceptualize all these things. I think there are some changes. To be fair, there are some changes that Frost Giant put through that reading them, people were like, "Are you sure this? You know, this is on paper this is horrible." And there are some that I always harp on about that always, you know, bother me, where it's like if you'd tried this for any length of time, you'd realize that it wasn't like viable or livable. I think just to pick on one thing, the cars at the start of the previous thing, and like they were just horrible, and it's like you could have spent a very short amount of time and play tested it for a very short amount of time, be like, oh, we can't do this because it's horrible, we might as well delete the unit.
You could have played the cards for 1 minute, or the Arandi hero.
Because I got into a custom with Tarps, shout out to Tarps, and just spammed cars, and I was like, oh, this is way worse, this is horrible. And there was it's really difficult, and I think this is across the kind of across the board. These things come up. I think this doesn't lose you your job. If anything, this is a good case for keeping you in your job, and that like there are going to be some things that people don't consider and they're blind to, and that's where like people that have played a lot and people, because we have to be honest, like developers don't have that much time to play a lot. Their job is to develop the game. It's not to like you know, spend hours and hours like playtesting. Obviously, I think that a lot of them would prefer that, and that sort of, you know, that would be nicer for them. But
the problem with that is that I've said this before. Someone actually commented a really nice comment under one of the videos. I don't remember which one, but like it's pro players aren't necessarily good at this either.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Because a pro player, for example, doesn't think about this affects the game for everyone else. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they can be extremely blind, right? So like one really nice comment that we got was that our perspective was refreshing because it considered both the pro player aspect, with me being very like good at video games in general and usually competing for the top spots of these RTS, but also accounting for how certain changes affect other things. Yeah,
Thank you, producer Pad. Thank you so much. We knew it was coming. I thought I got away with it, but no,
I was
think
trying
it's a fair point because at the end of the day, like you're also a ladder hero. Do you know what I mean? Like you can play at a very high level, but you also play a lot of ladder. You top, rank 1 on ladder, but not not in 5 games. It was in over many games. Even a lot of pro players like don't even ladder that much in like in StarCraft, for example, where they're like they play more customs or they scrim and drill and this sort of thing, but they maybe don't ladder that much, and that means they're missing something.
And the other thing is that I tend to overfix it and really try out stuff, right? Like I tend to try get fixated on one strategy and trying it over and over again, trying to really understand what happens with these certain parts, which means that sometimes I don't use all of the tools of my races, which is a blindness which I'm aware of, and I try to actively combat it. But it also means that it allows me to give a perspective, for example, how exactly an all-in works. Like actually how an all-in works, like why it works, how it works, why not every all-in is born, what's the difference between a Terran or a Zerg all-in, why does the all-in for Grell in this specific context work, why is this problematic, and so on, because I played a lot simply, right? And many pro players are not necessarily as good as this, because not only do they not necessarily play as much, but also they might have problems such as, well, Ami Laser, I play 50 shitters like Lorimbo. I can dunk on Lorimbo purely using the weakest unit in the game with my insane micro and my insane macro, right?
Yeah. What does this prove? Yeah. It's like a laser could play like Mass Queen against you and win, and it's like, okay, but this doesn't mean Queen Zerimba, you know?
How we prove that Mass Queen is the ultimate ZVZ strategy? No, I don't think so. Even though Eric seems to think so. Eric has his
I always find it fascinating when you talk to people that are this way, like yourself, Boanon and Reaper, and you're like, oh, what if he does this? And it's like, no, I've played 50 games against people doing that response to the thing that I do. And it's, in a way, very unfair, because the people playing against them have only seen this for the first time. Like, the first time you play against someone playing, like, one base swarm host, and you're like, the do you know what I mean? Whereas like, it's like, oh yeah, I play one base swarm host every game. I played this exact situation 50 times already. I know exactly what's happening.
I also know exactly who you're referring to with this particular build.
There's so many of these cases. I find it really interesting. Or I don't know. Let's go the other way and say even someone that's like only plays late game camp, like a key on NA ladder, and you're like, oh, you're insane at this portion of the game because you've played it so much more than everybody else. It's fascinating. Yeah.
No, but it's also like, well, in the case of Bonan or Reaper or I and so on, is that we are hyper specialized in a certain niche, and we just have we have a deep understanding of that specific niche. In my case, I try to overcompensate for this by trying to play more of everything else, right? So, for example, one thing that many people keep telling me, which is really, I don't know if it's flattering or if it's it gets me angry. First of all, no one ever believes me when I say that my macro account is usually higher than my well-known Lorimbo account. No one ever believes me. They don't believe. They either don't believe that an account is mine, or they don't believe that that I actually play macro. It's so I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. Then I go into other games and like I only play macro. Yeah, do 80 workers all in instead of macro 80. So true.
Yeah, so true. No rush 20. He's hitting at 18 minutes. This is so cheese.
So cheese. When I play other games, I try to. You might have noticed that I only play macro. In Zerospace, I don't cheese at all.
Look at how you were feudal rushing in Age of Empires.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't play feudal. I don't play Age of Empires competitively. I just like the game. I just like feudal rushing, honestly. I don't have a great design opinion, except that Castle Age should be nerfed. if they if we just remove Castle Age and above, I think the game is perfect. Like Age of Empires 4, but without anything after feudal. I think we cracked the code. I think that's the
Age of game. One Age of Empire.
Age of Empires 4 and 4/2. 4/2 because you only have 2 edges instead of 4.
Okay, I'm going to
But
segue
yeah.
again to keep us on track. Can you give us kind of a summary of the tournament? This was the tournament was going on at the exact time I bought the dog, so me and the dog were piss chilling, having a great
Well,
time. But I didn't see nearly any of it. I have
I
no clue
casted
what
a lot
happened.
of it. I
Yeah,
casted
I
a
saw
lot
that.
of it, so you can find it at Play Zerospace, like the Twitch channel.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know what to say, mate. It's like Protectorate is OP. Sanich really performed well, actually. Well done on my bro Sanich. Great build. Both Grell versus Grell and Legion versus Protectorate. I was cheering for him so hard.
Just you announcing that
Sanich,
you're joining 3D Clan?
I'm not sure about that. I think me not speaking Russian might be a bit of a problem for
I
that
don't know.
particular.
There's a few people that are in Russian clans who don't speak any Russian.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, I'll type it.
A certain, yeah, we thought about a certain Irish gamer. Okay, we both thought of the same guy.
I
I think
joined a Russian team. No, it's not true. Continue.
yeah, so true. Yes, we all, I only thought of him too. Well, everyone played well. So first off, let me say that I do not think for a second that any protectorate players got to like any rank just because of the patch. Specifically, I think Lucifron played out of his mind. But I do think that like the patch severely affected the some of the matchups, right?
Mhm.
Like I genuinely
Understandably
don't
so,
know.
right? It was a big patch with some pretty harsh changes, so yeah, that has to be the case.
It's my honest opinion. Like I thought the match, like I told Grey versus Protector was already unwinnable theoretically, even before the patch, and after the patch was like actually, I didn't even know what to do. It felt like no matter what you played, like they will just come to late game and just win on the spot with the dead ball. Like it was very frustrating in my experience. And then you also had the problem is that like Protector was just too good at everything. Like Mass Marine, completely viable up to 2k. Reaper proved that, or Mixu proved that. And then you like if your opponent goes Mass Stingers, you just go for the Valkaro flamethrowers. And then you have stuff like the PvP finals dominated by Gunship, right? To be fair, if it was a Grell versus Grell finals, it would have been exactly the same problem with Arandi flying flying mercs, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that this tournament really showed was some of the weaknesses of the patch in the over dominance of air units and over dominance of Protectorate in general.
We kind of have the same dynamic in Stormgate,
I'm,
though, at least, right? I think
yeah,
balancing around air is very difficult.
Yeah, I think it's less of a problem in Stormgate because Stormgate has like ostensibly a more air friendly approach, as in air units are supposed to be made more frequently in a more active role, right? So you have stuff like the Hornet or the Spriggans, in which seeing them actually in combat. Like when you see a Spriggan fighting against your army, you don't think, oh, that's weird, that's not how a Spriggan is supposed to be used, right? But in Zerospace, with the fact that like the whole stick about it was that air units were supposed to be more of a support / harass type.
Yeah, sure.
The fact that flying around the flying mercs were objectively the best and only DPS that
Yeah,
Grell
there was any
got.
reason to build, yeah.
Well, it was also the only thing that ever did damage. Like nothing else killed anything as Grell, right? So stuff like that, like really showed, and the fact that Protectorate versus Protectorate eventually devolved in Gunship versus Gunship. I will say I am happy about the result of the tournament. I think out of every Protectorate, Lucifron is the one that deserves the most, in my opinion. I think it's a very skilled gamer, and I really like the way he approached the matchups. I will not say anything else because, as I said, you can hear my casting on it, in which they allowed me, the caster, to balance wine on air. It was amazing. It was also amazing. Best one. Shout out to Miko losing the match, coming in to balance wine immediately after. So big.
That is the clip I saw. Was Eliza, who do you want to win? Nobody.
They are all Protectorate abusers. Who do you want to win? Nobody. They're all Protectorate abusers. So based. You know, he was the voice of the populace. Like nobody had the courage, not even I had the courage to say it. But the laser comes out swinging and just set up says. Nobody did. It is a everyone loses situation. So. Jokes aside, as always, the tournament was fun. I liked the qualification way more, and it was also nice of them to give money to top 32, even though they didn't announce it. In fact, they did not announce the prize at all during like nobody. Even while
so yeah, I was gonna ask because one of them was like famously 10k, right? And it was like, wow, 10k tournament, you know. The Stormgate one and the Zerospace one were both 10k.
Yeah,
but this one I still don't know what it is.
The distribution was never made public. In fact, to this day, still not public.
Is it not
I can
like
tell you,
on Wikipedia or something? Is it not?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Like I can tell you what it is because I know it. There's no Zerospace Wikipedia, right?
Even a beta one?
It was a 50 for top 32, and then it went 50, 200, 300, 700, 1500, and 3k. No, 3.5k.
That was the total to. What's the?
It's a bit more over 10k. I think it's like 10.5, like 10k and 500, something like that.
Nice, yeah, very generous to run so deep, I guess.
If I did the calculation correctly, it should be 10k and 600, something like that. But someone might correct me.
Someone needs to hurry up and get a Zerospace Wikipedia going.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the
so like, it was nice of them. I also really like the way qualifications were made this time with the tournament and the ladder qualification. And also, I really like that the tournament was before the ladder qualification. So it wasn't like, oh, I didn't qualify through ladder. Now I have like to try hard this tournament.
All the pressure is on the tournament. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can play the tournament, and if I don't get qualified because I'm unlucky, I don't perform well, I still have a second chance that I can take like more calmly. I have like 6 days to prepare for the ladder grind. Like and also there were more spots compared to the player.
And you need to know when you're looking at the ladder, like, okay, these players are already qualified, so I can kind of ignore them on the placement in terms of like, because you know, like, Loose One's qualified through the tournament, Larimbo's qualified through the tournament, so the number that you need to get to qualify is more clear, I guess, in that case.
Yeah, like it was quite clear exactly what MMR was. There wasn't exactly MMR struggle at 6 a.m. like last time, so props on the team for that. And I think that's about it. That sums up the Zerospace experience.
Nice. Now we can talk about Stormgate.
I mean, Stormgate, there's not much to talk about yet.
It opens in 2 days.
The patch hasn't come out yet.
No, we haven't got any real notes. I don't know if we're going to be allowed to read the notes. That must be public, right? Surely.
No, I don't think so.
You think no? Even with all of the Kickstarter people in? That will show up everywhere, I would have thought.
It's all NDA, I think, mate. So...
Okay. I am going to have to check the Discord and walk on careful ground. It's rough. The NDA, I think, is going to be a real struggle. They let so many people in with the Kickstarter, and I believe there's a second round of Kickstarter ongoing as we speak, for like late entry. I don't really know how they're going to NDA everything. I think Reddit is going to be a nightmare, and our boy Spartak is going to be patrolling that shit like a... Wait, I can't say that. Like a junkyard dog. I think it's... Oh yeah, you are right. Lilypad has sent a screenshot, and every channel has no spoilers, no spoilers, no spoilers, no spoilers. So basically the Discord is open now, anyone can join. But there's kind of a 2-tier system where if you are in the beta, you have access to like the playtest channels, and if you're not, you don't. And they're going to try and keep, I guess, all of the kind of playtest stuff out of the non-beta keyed channels. It's going to be tricky for them. That's all I'll say.
I mean, as I said, I think NDAs are bad. I've said this a million times. I understand maybe partially why they do it, but I think, like, honestly, just cut the NDA, mate. Just let the people speak. I don't think
really weird to have had an NDA and then to got rid of it and then to bring it back. That feels almost impossible. It feels incredibly hard to release.
I don't know about that. Like, it's
Okay, I put money on a Stormgate Twitch stream on the 30th. I put money on somebody streaming on Twitch on the 30th.
I'm not gonna put any money as always, but you will be pretty hilarious. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm gonna ego bet on that one.
Yeah, sure. I'll ego bet.
It may not even be it may not even be like malicious. It may not even be purposeful. I think there's a chance it's purposeful, but I think there's every chance that people were like, "Oh, the beta's back up." I didn't, I skimmed it. I didn't realize the NDA was back on, so they're just
yeah.
So here's what has been leaked through the NDA on high by game director Tim Campbell. Peace be upon him. There's some new models. Did you have a look?
No, I did not look at anything yet, mate.
I'll send it now. We can get live reaction. There's some new models and that sort of thing. I didn't prep this, so you won't get to see it on the podcast, but go and check out the playstormgate.com/news for all of the most recent stuff. So there's some new maps, there's some new co-op stuff. There's a new 3v3 map. They talk a lot in the blog about like some new models and that sort of thing. Actually, this blog is not great for the things that I want to talk about, so maybe don't read it now, Rambo. Essentially, the things that are interesting are, like we've already talked about, which is that they're changing the on-the-map camps to more of like a tower system, like they are in Zerospace, where you kill the camp, unlocks the tower, and then you cap the tower. But obviously, it can get stolen, so you need to like patrol it, and then you get like more gain over time as opposed to a very strong gain up front. I like this a lot, and I think it can make the game very dynamic. What we saw in the previous patch was that there was a camp in the corner of the map that would give you so many fiends that everyone rushed to it and always did it straight at the start of the game. Bit pointless. And then also the camp itself was irrelevant for the rest of the game. Like, if we're being really honest, like how many times did you need a speed camp through that very restricted corner of the map? Like
I've said before, I think like some of the maps in Stormgate, I don't like. It's surprising enough. I like Zerospace maps way more.
Yeah,
which is weird. Zerospace maps are way more crazy. Like we have maps where the main has more than one access and stuff. But like some of the camp positioning in Stormgate is like.
Yeah,
I think
weird.
the only map that I really liked was the most hated one. I think it's Jack. Yeah. I really like. I actually thought that was like one of the better ones. I'm not sarcastic at all, by the way.
That's because you didn't play Vanguard. I hate to say it.
No, that's true. No, the map was definitely Imba. No doubt about it. But like, a lot of people hated it even in Infernal vs Infernal. But I actually liked it because I think the.
Oh, it's an interesting map for sure, and it had a lot of like map-specific strategy.
It solved one of the biggest problems, in my opinion, which was like straight-up camping. It's that simple. Like people were camping a lot, and that map encouraged playing aggressive compared to camping, which I thought was an excellent change. So that's really it, honestly. Like some of the maps, we're gonna see. I remember there was like Boneyard and like some new concept maps that were gonna be announced. And stuff like that. So we're gonna see how good those are.
Yeah, they've added 4-player spawn maps. Wondered what you thought about that. You know, like you can spawn. I think so. There's history to this in StarCraft.
Not like I understood what you said.
I know. I'm not talking just to you, am I? There are many listeners.
I'm the only person in the I'm God upon earth, and you shall respect me.
The history of this is that. The idea is that there are 4 possible spawn locations. The history of this in StarCraft is that for a long time, you could spawn at any of those locations. So, on some maps, you would spawn incredibly close by air. Like, there would be bases in this kind of config, and you could spawn on either of these spots. It wasn't forced cross, or, this way. It was, you could spawn very close. Eventually, they agreed... Or, I don't know, agreed, but eventually it was forced cross, which meant if you spawned in this location, your opponent would always spawn in the diagonally opposite one, which adds another thing as well, in that you no longer need to scout 2 base locations. You know where they've spawned it because they are always diagonally across from you. They've introduced this to Stormgate. I don't know if it's forced cross. They didn't mention, so I doubt it's forced cross. So there are now like 4 possible spawn locations. It could be that you end up in any of them. And I'm interested to see how that kind of affects things. It could be very nice for Infernal, because it's very likely now that the dog doesn't come to your base straight away, and you no longer get
I think it's
harass.
a terrible idea. Yeah, it's a gamble, mate. Like I've
Yeah,
complained a lot about how I feel like Stormgate has a lot of RNG builds, and like the developers have listened to my prayers to make it even more fucking clown fiesta, to make it even less serious. I propose for the next going mod we have a map in which at the start you choose rock, paper, or scissor, and then whoever wins the map directly.
Yeah, I like that.
It sounds like and then we can have another map in which instead of actually playing Stormgate, we can play Battleship instead.
Or poker. Yeah, we could just get
no
cards.
poker, not because I suck at poker. I want to play something I'm good at.
Poker.
So I want Battleships.
Like Producer Pad says, it's not cross. It's random spawn.
Yeah,
so
this is good because you don't have to deal with this major problem 2/3 of your game. Yeah. Like mate, what do you want? I think this is a terrible idea. I think, like, once again, I've said this before, if your game relies on gimmick map to be good or to be fun, you have way bigger problems than a map. So I think cross spawns is a bad, like, even forced cross location for players maps are bad in my opinion. I don't think there is any iteration of 4 players maps that's good in 1v1. I mean,
really?
Yes.
How come? Why?
Because 4 players map don't have to abide by the usual rules of map making, so they usually end up to being very very imba. And like I know, like it's I don't know what to say, right? Because in this I differentiate. Like people in StarCraft keep talking about, oh, we want gimmicky map, but they don't really. In my opinion, they're wrong about what they want.
Just look at the veto rates of like Radusat. No one played Radusat. It might as well not have
Yeah,
been in the
because
pool.
people don't want gimmicky map. They want exciting map, and they confuse the two by thinking that adding a gimmick will make the game exciting.
Yeah.
But the reason why the game feels less exciting, for example, in StarCraft now, compared to when Golden Wall was in the map pool, is because when Golden Wall was in the map pool, the meta was Link Bane Muta, and now the meta is Link Bane into Turtle against Turtle, and more Turtle. Like it has nothing to do with the
changing
with
the map is not gonna.
like
adding a gimmick to the map is not gonna switch that up hugely.
Like all of the Diamond players on Reddit that keep saying, no, you don't understand. It's not a balance problem or a design problem. It's a map problem. If you just make the map more exciting, instead of the last 3 years of map have gotten progressively shittier and shittier and shitter and more imba to nerf Serral. Basically, they made maps where everything that was cool and fun to play against Zerg was completely destroyed. Instead of actually nerfing the things that made Zerg stronger, they nerf them up. So instead of actually like having nerfing Serral or doing Serral doing worse, because Serral is gonna do well no matter what, we just get like, oh wow, I get to play on the Ant map, whose gimmick is that we only have corridors, bases that I cannot take, and my opponent gets 5-3 bases.
Yeah, it's fun.
And even this is not like a Zerg specific thing, no, because there are maps in the map pool like Dynasty where you're like, I don't understand how this was ever made, and the fact that
I've never
the
played
whole
a game of Dynasty, so I can't even talk about it. I just looked at it. I was like, I'm not playing this. Vetoed it.
Yeah. I mean, like it's like people don't. I don't think. Well, I cannot speak for people, right? Like that's a bit arrogant, but I genuinely see that like there is a disconnect between what people say they want and what the actual like statistics show in like vetoes and stuff that's played, or even just watch time of players. Like they don't like the only thing that people watch that's like epic on these weird maps, like people doing insane cheeses. There's a difference between being a spectator and being a player too. No, I mean even as a spectator,
but
even as a spectator, I don't think Dynasty creates interesting games. I think it's actually the
Dynasty.
opposite.
So for reference, Dynasty was 9.96% of games on EU. Oceanborn 12.15%. So the variance is mild. But it's there. So Post Youth and Dynasty are both below 10%, and then actually Crimson Court, Alcyone, Ghost River, Golden Aura, Side Delta, Ocean One are all above 10%. Actually, all above 11%. So
Yeah, because those are the standard map. That's a significant, like a 2% difference in map things is a significant amount. It's a significant amount. That's way below variance. And the reason for that is because you can take a look at mapples were more or less stable, or compare maps that are considered stably similar, for example, Ocean Border and Golden Aura, and see variance rates of 0.2% to maybe 0.5. That's around the G's that we're working. Then we have post-youth that's like 2% below that.
Yeah, you can check
even
season
more.
57. Hard Lead was most played, 12.11%. Oceanborn, second most at 12 flat. Site Delta at 11.8. Radu set down at 8%. Equilibrium at 9.1.
Equilibrium at 9.43, yeah. And Equilibrium was a perfect example. Was gimmick. It was great for Zerg. Was completely gimmick.
Yeah,
we have
I want to check
the Royal Blood to New Humanity. We can also see the same thing, right? Like Royal Blood to Babylon, the most common maps, pretty standard play. Like we see a variance of 1% at most, and then we have New Humanity just like 3.5%. Now this is a bit scaled up because we had 7 maps instead of 9 at the time.
Yeah,
so
if you go to season 55.
Yeah, but like this is, and if you go even below, like if you go to, let me see, when was Juggernaut?
Royal Blood was at 15.5%. Near Humanity 3% lower, 12.5%.
Yeah, and then we can see stuff. Then we can see once again, even on ladder, like Hardwire 14%, Berlingrad 14%, one of the best maps ever made in my opinion. Berlingrad 14%, Beckett 7.8%, and this was with 7 maps, so a 5% difference is a very significant margin. So Blackburn was 9%. God, Pride of Altaris is 12. Like Pride of Altaris is one of the most gimmick
that map.
It's 3% above Beckett. Like people say, oh no, we just want it's gonna be so fun, it's gonna be more fun, but it's not true.
Yeah.
Even if you
it just doesn't
for
matter. People just veto it. People just don't. People just don't choose to play it.
Yeah, because it blows. Like I cannot, like even now, like I'm watching at this, like it just, no one wants to play them because the maps are not good.
So they have also now, Frost Giant have said that they can do map randomization. We finally have the technology. So now it won't be one map on the pool, it'll cycle through. I don't expect there will be vetoes. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm underestimating and there's vetoes too. But there will not be random maps. So there'll be random maps, but I doubt there will be vetoes. I think there are 5 maps now, but I might be wrong. Maybe 6? We'll see. Yeah, 2 new ones. It depends if they include what was the one you hate, Limbo? That Bossa played on?
What's it called?
Titan's Causeway?
Titan's Causeway, yeah.
Yeah. So it might be it depends if they include that one or not. And then the other thing you do need to look into in the video is they've added a new unit, a free new unit for the nearly said GRELL, oh my god, for the Infernal, which is pretty exciting. So the idea behind the unit, in broad strokes, go and check out the video, folks, is you start with it's the free unit to kind of mirror the dog from Vanguard, and the idea is that they've taken Infest off of the Gaunt and put it on this unit, so there's much more power in one unit, and then the spells are what causes Infest. So obviously you need to, I guess, shuttle this unit around the map, infesting all the camps. I guess then with cooldowns, the pathing for the camps and the rate at which you can clear camps, I guess, changes, and that becomes different. They didn't go into massive details about how it works. It has a spell for scouting, which will be interesting to see. Kind of how that works and how that, is balanced. But yeah, we'll see. Thoughts?
But yeah, well, as I said, I think this. I will see. Like the spellcaster is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting design perspective. I will see how it plays out, and like.
Yeah, we really don't have details because it depends. If the spellcaster doesn't have an auto attack and does no damage,
exactly.
The proposition is very different, right?
But also, like, what kind of spellcasters are we talking about, right? Like, is it a damage thing? Is it like a storm spellcaster? Is it more of a debuff like plague? Because, like, for example, debuff spellcaster could be really interesting. Maybe an area of denial could could
So-
do stuff. It can scout and lay mines. That doesn't
Yeah.
sound like
Scout, lay mines, and infest. So I guess it's sentry plus infest. You can do like your hallucinated phoenix scouting, plus you can infest units.
I
the
don't
gaunt
know, because
now
it
can't
doesn't solve
infest.
the dead ball problem, right?
Yeah, we'll
Like
see.
it,
I mean, that's the only thing they've shown. I'm sure there are other changes to come
yeah,
balance wise.
yeah. Obviously. I'm saying like this one in particular, I'm neutral
Mhm.
about. As I said, I think the creep camps is a good change.
Yep.
We'll see how they implement it. I'm overall carefully optimistic about like hopefully they fix some of the things.
Yeah, I mean, it's all up in the air, and now we can't even really talk about it. So I guess stay tuned for us to not talk about it. We'll see. Anything else, Lumbo, before we say goodnight?
Let me think about it. It's a terrible day today, as every time. Stay tuned. Actually, I don't know. Stay tuned for more content. I'm not sure with the NDA stuff. I'm not sure
Bro,
what
back
kind
to
of fucking
StarCraft.
content. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about
Age
StarCraft
of
again.
Empires. Oh, yeah, Grey Goo. Age of
Goo.
Mythology. I've been playing a lot of Age of Mythology lately. You ever play Red Alert? We could play Red Alert. Oh, Pokemon Go content.
I've
Let's
been playing a
fucking
lot of
go.
Total War, mate. That's what I've been doing.
And Fallout.
And Fallout. Total War 3 Kingdoms. That's the shit, mate. That's
Okay,
bro.
well,
I got
that's it for this late delayed
yeah.
episode of All Things Zero Time. Thank you guys for checking us out. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on Spotify and tip your waitress.
What the fuck?
You know that?
Bye bye.